heroes acting out there on a silver screen. Come grab a seat, popcorn is on me.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take one.
Hello, welcome to Meet Me at the Movies. Noel T. Manning II here, hanging out with Thomas Manning. Some relation, and we're joined by an incredible person. I'll just start with that incredible person. Somebody I've known for a number of years. Sean O'Connell, fellow film critic, amazing entertainment journalist, an author. And just a friend. And so, Sean, good to have you back. Really, really glad to have you on the show, buddy.
It's an honor to be with both of you guys. I really do. I appreciate you guys having me on. It's great to be able to call you guys colleagues.
Well, we are going to celebrate today the man by the name of Bruce Willis. And the reason we're doing this, and not just, we can do it anytime. But we can celebrate Bruce Willis anytime, but especially today because Sean has a book celebrating the cinematic legacy of an unbreakable Hollywood icon. Bruce Willis is the header for that. That's the subtitle. Sean, your second book.
Wrong answer.
And we're just glad to have you. Third book. Forgive me. Third book. Yes. Third book. Yeah. Snyder, Spider-Man, Bruce Willis. I never got past 2 when I could count. So Thomas, he's already exceeding me in that. So third book, and thanks for correcting me on that, Thomas.
3 is a magic number. Yes, it is. It's a magic number.
Well, we're glad to have you, and I think we've had you on the show to talk about your previous 2. So, if I could keep track, I would know this is the third. So we're glad to have you, man.
They all meld together after a while.
I'll blame it on. I'll just blame it on my beard. The longer my beard gets, the mushier my brain gets. So I'll just blame it on that. Well, Thomas, you have about 57 questions, and we're going to get to at least 2 of those. So I'll let you dive in first, man.
Awesome. Yeah. So, Sean, I know you have this book split up into 5 different sections, going from the comedies of Bruce Willis, from there to the action genre, and then science fiction, and then his work with auteur directors, and then you round it out with the Die Hard franchise. So when did it click for you that this was how you wanted to structure and how you wanted to split up these sections?
So early on, but it definitely took some thought because it's a lot of ground to cover, but I definitely didn't want to do like an A to Z, then he did this, then he did that sort of thing. And ultimately what I wanted to prove was that he's far more versatile than I think people give him credit for. When they think about Bruce Willis, they probably automatically go to the action genre. Understandably, he's one of the biggest action stars we've had, Die Hard being his signature franchise. But I broke him into those categories, Thomas, because when I kind of looked over his career, I was really impressed, and I hadn't really thought about it this way. How often he took risks over the course of his career, how often he pivoted into other genres, how often he sought out filmmakers who had a strong voice who maybe weren't established at the time. When he collaborated with M. Night Shyamalan, like M. Night wasn't a known director at that point. He gets together with Rian Johnson at a really early stage in Johnson's career. Quentin was taking off with Reservoir Dogs, but like Pulp Fiction was still an untested property, and no one really knew what Quentin was going to be before Bruce sort of got involved in that. So as I started thinking about like, okay, I want to write about Bruce Willis. Great. That's a fantastic idea. What am I going to say about him? How am I going to say it? And right around that time, he announced his retirement. And I thought, okay, well, this is a great opportunity to think like, if he's retiring, why does that matter? Why is this important? And in order to sort of break down his filmography, I thought by doing it in chapters or in segments that way, it'd be easier for people to sort of break off. And this isn't, as much as this book, if you would like to, works, start at the beginning, read it all the way through to the end, terrific. But it's also the type of book that I think you can pick up and you could just go right to the chapter of the movie that you love. Because I think people are going to do that anyway, and they should. Like, I would jump right to The Last Boy Scout, or I would jump to The Fifth Element or something like that. And I want people to be able to read my analysis, figure out what I thought about it, see it in the context of his own career, but then put the book down, go watch it, go watch 16 Blocks, because you remember that he was in it, and then come back and read about what I said about it. So I wanted the book to kind of work in that way. And I hope that ultimately it does.
I really appreciated the way it was broken down, because you were talking about reading individual chapters, and I was thinking about it from the standpoint of reading it in individual sections, like, looking at the action films, or looking at those comedies as a section, and seeing where there were similarities in his approaches. And we are looking at the cinema of Bruce Willis. I think you do mention his TV appearances, especially Moonlighting and that kind of launch, but letting our viewers and the readers know this focuses on cinema. Another thing I really appreciated about this was when you go into the conclusion. I love those capsule reviews of these films, and wanted to ask you, relating to that, were these reviews that you had previously written for all of these films, or were these reviews that you decided after working on this book, hey, I need to go back and rework some, but start some from scratch?
No, that's a great question. All of those are brand new original reviews that were written specifically for this book. And someone asked me the other day, like, one of the hardest parts about tackling his career, but one that I thought that I was okay with, is that it's a complete body of work, right? Like, he's in 115 films. And if I'm going to do the book, like, I better watch every single one of them. Otherwise, what's the point, kind of thing. Right. But, and so I even got a little bit paranoid, because there was a rumor going around that Tarantino, doing his last film, might find like a role for Bruce. And I was like, please don't do that, because then, like, my filmography thing is going to be incomplete, and I got bad OCD, and I'll just, worry about not having every single one in there. But the reviews at the end of that, and this is tough because you guys know this, you're putting something in a book, it's permanent, it's going to sit there, right? But my opinion about those movies is, so those capsules are really written, that each of them is written because I watched every single movie leading up to it, and I wrote the capsule right after the thing. So that's how I felt about that movie in the moment, right? 5 years, 10 years from now, I can go back and read that capsule, and my opinion on some of the movies, not all of them, like 12 Monkeys is a perfect movie. It's going to be a perfect movie. Die Hard's not going to get any better. It's Die Hard. But those ones that are like, oh, I gave it a 3, out of 4, and now I revisited it, and it hit me a little bit differently, and it's a 3.5, or it's it's actually a 2. That's a bit of putting something in a book and making it permanent that I'm like, I don't love that part of it, because I'm an internet reporter. I've written for the web for my entire career. You can go back and change stuff on the web. It's not permanent. Those reviews live there now, and I do have some agita about, like, oh yeah, now that grade is there forever. And even, like, at the end of the book, I do this Mount Rushmore of Bruce Willis, performances, and I try to pick the 4 that to me are his most iconic. I wrestled over that more than anything else in the book, because I was like, specifically, one of the ones that I choose is Unbreakable, and I choose Unbreakable over The Sixth Sense. Those are interchangeable. Like, if you ask me again in 5 years from now, then maybe The Sixth Sense becomes one of the ones I put on there. Die Hard has to be there. I think Pulp Fiction probably has to be there. The other 2 slots are up for debate, and there's no wrong answer, but I hated having to put that into a chapter, and yet I did it anyway. I don't know why.
I really love what you said, because that is something that there are some people who think that once you write a review, it's fixed. You can't change your mind. But the longer you sit with things, the more you kind of digest, things can change. And I know exactly what it's like when I walk out of a screening and we have to give we have the opportunity to share with publicists our initial thoughts. And there are times
very diplomatic the way you say that.
but those thoughts can easily change within hours, and that's happened to me before. And so I'm really glad that you spoke on that, because I think that's a lot of times people when they look at critics' work, they don't think that we're human too, and that we have those mind changes that will happen from time to time.
Oh, what's worse is hosting a podcast and having someone come up to you and say, like, hey, you said so-and-so about this movie. And I'm like, I said that? That's stupid. I don't think that anymore. Like, my thought on that movie is completely changed now. But it should. It's an ever-evolving medium, you know? And
Yep.
you as the vessel for what the art's trying to say to you is you're changing constantly. So it's kind of awful to... But I mean... Ebert, who I adore, you know, I love Roger Ebert, because in his later years, he would go back and revisit movies and rewrite reviews and admit candidly, like, no, it just hit me the wrong way the first time I saw it. This is totally different. So anyone who says that whatever they said the first time is set in stone is crazy.
Thomas, go for it.
Yep. So would you say there are any specific films from Bruce's career that almost felt like a new discovery for you in your journey of writing this book, even if it was maybe a film you've seen before, but maybe you got a new perspective on it from the process of writing this book?
Yeah, a bunch. But the first one that comes to mind when you say that is a movie called 16 Blocks that Richard Donner directed. And I know I saw it when it came out, and I know I enjoyed it, but I didn't appreciate fully, you know, how good it is and how good he is in it. It's, you know, I came to understand Bruce early on and loved him for the sarcastic and charismatic and larger than life character that he played, you know, on Moonlighting and of course John McClane and some of those parts. But like later in his career, when he really did this internal acting and this introspective, you know, he kind of wore the weight of the world on his shoulders in a bunch of parts later on. I grew to appreciate that style of acting a lot more. So even like 16 Blocks for sure, but then 12 Monkeys, like to go back and revisit 12 Monkeys, you come out of that movie and I think most people think about Brad Pitt because he's kind of chewing the scenery and swinging for the fences. But Bruce holds that entire movie together, in my opinion, because I mean, you have to see the movie through his eyes. 12 Monkeys is a guy who may or may not be from the future, and the future potentially was devastated by a disease, and he's being sent back to get information on it. But he wakes up in a mental institution, and so you don't know if he's imagining that future or which is his reality. And he sells that entire movie through facial expressions, you know, and quiet. And I really deeply admired Bruce's ability to be quiet in scenes. It's what makes The Sixth Sense as good as it is. It's what makes Pulp Fiction, like there are long stretches of Pulp Fiction where he doesn't say anything. His opening scene opposite Marcellus Wallace is just him sitting there, you know, being told why he has to go down in the fight. And he has the confidence of a movie star to hold the camera with nothing but his face and no reaction. And it's just, you know, I grew to better appreciate that aspect of him. And now in general, that kind of acting, like I just saw the Bike Riders, the Jeff Nichols film, and really appreciated Austin Butler for sitting there and letting Tom Hardy and Michael Shannon, you know, go nuts and do their own thing, but knowing, hey, now is my time to be quiet and to let other people shine. And I think Bruce did that really, really well.
You are joined here on Meet Me at the Movies with Sean O'Connell, Thomas Manning. We are talking Bruce Willis, celebrating the cinematic legacy of an unbreakable Hollywood icon. The book is available now, and we are talking to the author. Stick around. After this quick intermission, we're going to come back with more with Sean O'Connell, but after this.
Won't you come and meet me at the movies? Won't you come and watch a flick?
Education is our most powerful tool to improve and change our world. Hi, I'm Rhonda Benfield, your host for School Matters. Join me for a new program every other week with information from and about the students and staff of Cleveland County Schools. Discover what our schools are doing to challenge students and help them reach their full potential. You can catch us on Spectrum Cable Channel 19 or stream us live on c19.tv.
Hi, I'm Steve Putnam, and I'd like to invite you to join me for the next Talk of the Town. Each week I get to meet with some of the most interesting people in Cleveland County. And each show is packed with information you need to know to stay connected to our community. From promoting upcoming events to discussing local subjects that impact you, Talk of the Town has a little something for everyone. Plus, we're on every day, so it's easy to catch up with us. That's Talk of the Town, every day, every week, right here on C19 TV, Cleveland County's channel.
Hi, I'm Nikki Bliss Carroll, your host for Cleveland Connections. the show that explores what's happening at Cleveland Community College. Join us as we sit down with members of faculty and staff to discuss programs of study, upcoming events, and other exciting campus news. We'll have a new show for you each month on C19 TV, or you can stream us online at c19.tv. Tune in and connect with Cleveland Community College on Cleveland Connection.
Won't you come and meet me at the movies? Won't you come and watch a flick?
Welcome back to Meet Me in the Movies. Noel T. Manning II here with Thomas Manning, co-hosting right here with Sean O'Connell. Sean is a friend, has been for a while, and a three-time author. Look at that. I got it right. Three-time author. And the book today we're talking about is Bruce Willis, celebrating the cinematic legacy of an unbreakable Hollywood icon, written by Sean O'Connell, and it is available now. So, Sean, before the break, you were talking a little bit about just the versatility of Bruce, and how exploring him if you look at him in Moonlighting, and then you kind of compare that to what he did in 12 Monkeys, you'd say, wait, is this the same guy? And I remember when Bruce was breaking out into something different, and it typically happens when you see comic talent trying to take on some things that are different, and people are like, well, can I buy it? Mm-hmm. Did you ever have that question about Bruce early on, or did you know that there was something there before you ever actually saw it on screen?
I guess I never would have thought that he could have done the dramatic parts that he did, but this is what helps our greatest actors, last from generation to generation. And I guess younger actors always try to do bigger and louder, and then they get more quiet over the years. I'm thinking of some of the comparables to Bruce, I think, is like a Paul Newman, who was, brash and confident in his early years, and then became more of a grizzled character actor later on. And I think you wear your experience kind of on your sleeve. And I think eventually Bruce did that. But there's a point, Noel, where Kevin Smith, the director, made a comparison to Bruce about him coming out of television in that time, the 80s, basically when Saturday Night Live was launching people on a regular basis into movies. You see, Chevy Chase come out of there, Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, guys like that. Tom Hanks, was big on Bosom Buddies and then was figuring out his movies. And Hanks at that time was doing Bachelor Party and Splash and movies that, were leaning into this comedic aspect. Bruce goes from Moonlighting into Blind Date, where he's very much the straight man to John Larroquette and Kim Basinger. And what Kevin Smith says is, that Bruce Willis's comparable was Bill Murray. Like he kind of should have had a Bill Murray career, where he was like the sarcastic, sort of irascible, like mussed up hair, agent of chaos that Bill Murray ends up being in Ghostbusters, and it catapults him in 1984 to a string of movies where he's just Bill Murray then. And Bruce has Die Hard, and Die Hard puts him on this other path. So, you talk about being pigeonholed and certain actors being cast as certain things, and it made me wonder in the moment if those two switched, if Bruce did Ghostbusters, and he could have, he very easily, if you see David Addison and you put him in Ghostbusters, does he have that career? Does he become a funny man, forever? Because Bruce got put into action, and then he wanted to sort of bring his audience back around and be like, no, I'm also really funny. And we got Hudson Hawk, and it was his song and dance because he loved music and tried to have a record career. It was his comedy, which he liked, which is this sort of physical Looney Tunes type comedy. And then the action that was kind of foisted on him. And the audience was like, no, we don't want you doing this. This is too goofy. And so then he has to run back to the safety of The Last Boy Scout, and Mercury Rising and generic action movies like Striking Distance and stuff like that, but it makes me wonder if had he had success in those early days, because he's versatile enough and talented enough that he could have done all those things. It's just, what did the audience accept him as? And I find that to be a pretty fascinating study.
Wow, love that.
And Sean, over the 2+ year process of writing this book, you've also had a unique opportunity because in your day to day, you're covering film and television with Cinema Blend, with the Real Blend podcast, and you're oftentimes interviewing filmmakers and collaborators who have worked with Bruce at various points throughout his career. I know specifically when you spoke with Ryan Johnson about Glass Onion, you got to ask him a question about Bruce with Looper. I think probably one of your Tarantino conversations around the same time that Bruce had announced his retirement. So I'd just love to have you share a bit about that experience and what that means to you to have those two things merge so beautifully, and just your day-to-day job covering television and film, and how that merges with what you were doing writing this book.
See, I feel like I was cheating a little bit, right? Like, because I might not have gotten all of those people specifically, for a book, and specifically a book about Bruce, in which people were very protective of what was being said about him post the diagnosis. And, the people were very cautious and wanted to make sure that this was going to be a book that wasn't trying to not capitalize on the announcement, but maybe like dissect him in any kind of way that might tarnish his reputation. And you can kind of let people know that you're trying to be as celebratory as possible. And I think Real Blend, in a way, speaks to the way that we approach film, and that, we're not here to tear down movies. We really do try to build them up and talk to the different people who are associated with it. So, to talk to Ryan and to talk to Quentin and to get a sense of what Bruce meant to them in those periods, and how important he was to their careers. That's when Ryan kind of shared with me that, if he didn't get Bruce for Looper, he probably wouldn't have been able to make the movie that he got a chance to make. He wasn't Breaking Bad yet. He wasn't Star Wars yet. This is Ryan Johnson coming off of Brick, and then the Brothers Bloom, which wasn't a big hit at all, and needed a star to essentially buy into the script, because Joseph Gordon-Levitt was going to do that part regardless. He had been working with Ryan up to this point, but then it's like, can they play off of each other? Can they pull off that scene of younger and older person character? To tell you how it feels to do it in the day to day, like it's so rewarding, because when you take on a book, and I've said this to anyone who's thinking about writing a book, you have to love the topic. You are going to live with that topic, every waking minute of every given day. And when you're doing your full-time job, all you want to do is get back to the book and tinker on it. So when like for Oppenheimer, this is so sick. For Oppenheimer, I saw the room was going to be Matt Damon and Emily Blunt paired. And I was like, amazing. Emily Blunt was in Looper and Matt Damon was in Ocean's 12. I can ask the two of them. Like, your brain immediately goes to, oh, sweet, I can ask him something about Bruce, because you're that's all you think about. That's all you think of. You're in the churn of trying to figure that out. And so it's funny, like there were times, especially on Snyder Cut, if there was anybody associated with the Justice League and I knew I could get a question in, the guys knew, Kevin and Jake, who co-host Real Blend with me, they knew that I was working on the book, or they knew I was working on the Bruce book. And I was like, hey, we got to do this interview because Rennie Harlan did Die Hard 2, and we got to talk to him about that. So, I feel like I'm cheating a little bit, because I like not take certain opportunities. Like, obviously I was going to do Oppenheimer, but like the minute you find out you have somebody, you're like, oh, good, I can ask him about this. And then you get a good quote, or you get a good story or an angle that makes you think about him differently. Like Ryan Johnson telling me how important Bruce was to running studio interference, and letting him make the type of movie that he wanted to make. Then I started to see that through line in so many other filmmakers. Luc Besson saying, I had this bizarro sci-fi world in The Fifth Element that no studio would take a chance on. And the minute that Bruce said he would do it, that meant opening weekend. That meant I was guaranteed an opening. Terry Gilliam said the same thing. Terry Gilliam was like, no studio was going to back me for 12 Monkeys. But the minute that Bruce said he wanted to do it, I was in, and I could make the movie I wanted to do. And I never really thought about the power of a movie star, because I don't think those movie stars have that power anymore. I don't think they can get projects greenlit. Or even if they do, it's The Rock and it's some sort of, tailor-made thing that's structured to him. It's not a risk. It's not a challenge. And I think Bruce backed risky projects and challenges because he wanted to see how they turned out. And I deeply admire that.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And you're right. His name carried weight, and it still carries weight as we're talking about Sean O'Connell's book, Bruce Willis, celebrating the cinematic legacy of an unbreakable Hollywood icon. Where can people find the book, Sean?
Anywhere books are sold, essentially. It's available on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Noble. I'm trying to do some local signings here in Charlotte, so follow me on social media on various channels, and once I have some of those locked up, I'll be sure to advertise them. But as of right now, it's out on the shelves, so grab yourself a copy.
And where to follow you? What's the best way people follow you?
Sure. So I'm on Cinema Blend on a regular basis. I'm the managing editor of that news site over there. We do the Real Blend podcast. It comes out every Friday. Again, a lot of movie talk, very similar. If you're a big fan of Meet Me at the Movies, you want to come over and listen to Real Blend as well, too. And then I'm on Twitter, Instagram, all those different places. Just search Sean O'Connell. There's a mixed martial artist named Sean O'Connell, and then now apparently there's an Irish footballer, because I'm getting a lot of Google alerts about an Irish footballer named Sean O'Connell. Not surprising; it's a pretty common name. But now I'm third on the Google search list. Maybe do Sean O'Connell movies, and then I'll show up.
So just any final thoughts you want to make sure you share with the audience before we wrap up, Sean?
I hope, like I said earlier, and I want this to really be the emphasis. Like, I hope everybody goes into this book with an open mind about Bruce. You might think that he's like X amount, like, oh, he's just this. But I think it's so important to emphasize that he played in so many different lanes and succeeded in a lot of those lanes. And I think you're going to pick up this book, even if you just flip through it, and you're going to see a bunch of titles of movies that you loved, and you're going to be reminded of, like, oh yeah, that's right, he was in Armageddon. Oh my God, that's right. He's in, the Red. He's in Red and Red 2, and how good he was. Oh, he's in The Expendables. Why did he do that? And I have those answers, and that's all in there. And it's, again, written with a love and appreciation for who he was as a movie star. Because I don't think there's anyone else out there like him, and I don't think the way that the industry is structured nowadays, we're going to get anyone else like him. So he's a rare case, and I hope the book does him justice.
One of the things when I taught film studies, I look at action films of the 80s and kind of the impact and how that changed. And there are three names that I talk about: Schwarzenegger, Stallone with Rambo, and of course Bruce Willis. And the three of them, what they were able to do at the box office because of what they were willing to do from an action standpoint, it changed the game. It definitely changed the game.
It changed the game. But you know what I want to point out, Noel? The reason why I like to celebrate Bruce is because those other two guys could not do so many of the movies that he did. Like, if you try to imagine Stallone in Bonfire of the Vanities, or Arnold doing The Sixth Sense, like, it's just, it doesn't happen. You could put Bruce in Predator. I'm buying it,
Yeah, exactly.
Bruce can be in Demolition Man. I'm cool with it, but Stallone is not going to be in Death Becomes Her. I'm sorry.
Sean O'Connell, thanks for joining us, talking about Bruce Willis in your book, Bruce Willis, Celebrating the Cinematic Legacy of an Unbreakable Hollywood Icon. Really appreciate you. Thomas Manning, thanks for your thought-provoking questions. You always come to the table with great research, my man. I appreciate you so much. For everyone out there taking the time to spend with us, thank you as well. And for this week's Meet Me at the Movies, for Sean and for Thomas, I'm Noel T. Manning II, and that is a wrap.
Many films to view until we meet again. Next time we see you, we'll gladly fill you in. We'll tell about the happy and the sad ones. We'll talk about the good ones and the bad ones. Many films to view till we meet again.